Start now. Ja, guten Abend, liebe Coaches, zur heutigen International Coaches Clinic mit Coach Mac von der Orange Park High School. Außerdem ist Coach Mac uns, glaube ich, allen bekannt durch seinen Play Fast YouTube-Channel. Und Coach Mac wird uns heute etwas berichten über die 3-3 Stack, die er mit Splitfield Coverages verbindet, wird ein bisschen über die verschiedenen Terminologien sprechen. Was ist die 3-3 Stack? Welche Vorteile gibt es in dieser Front in der Defense und welche Splitfield Coverages lassen sich damit verbinden? So Coach Mac, I'm excited to listen to your talk, and I have my pen and paper ready. I think we can start now.
Okay, so guys, first of all, thank you guys for having me. I think this is absolutely amazing that, through some YouTube stuff that I've done just some things that I've done on the internet that I can be part of a Zoom clinic with coaches from Germany. Every time I do a YouTube live during the week on my YouTube channel, I always have people from Germany, Brazil, Spain, Mexico, just different countries every time I do YouTube live. And it's just amazing to me that from a platform like YouTube, we can now have the ability to have so many foreign coaches trying to grow the game of American football in your country where, other sports are so prevalent. So it's great for the game. It's great for everybody to learn. And for me, it's just, it's kind of very humbling that you guys know possibly what I do or who I am. And it's just, it's a privilege for me to speak. So thank you for having me. We're going to start. Hopefully you guys can see my screen. This is from a presentation that I did for my Patreon site, which is a site that's a little bit different than YouTube. It's a subscription site, which allows me to use video clips and do some things. So this is from a webinar I did speaking about why we choose the 3-3 stack at Orange Park, what are split field coverages in general, and then I'll get to a couple slides to kind of show you how we line up to different formations, and then we can ask questions at any time, and I'll talk to you guys about anything that you guys want to. So, for us, it starts with the simplicity. It's easy for us to teach and play gap sound 8-man front football. So when we line up in our 3-3 stack, our run fits are a little bit different than maybe most traditional teams. So we're going to take care of with our 3 down linemen and our 3 linebackers in our base front and coverage. Those 6 guys are going to take care of the interior 6 gaps. So C gap to C gap, the A gap, B gap, C gap on each side of the ball. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to play the same run fits, even though we may be playing some different coverages behind them on the back end. So, what they do as linebackers in the coverage part versus the pass may be a little different at times, but how we fit runs, which is the most important thing for us on defense, because in American high school football, the ball is probably going to be run 75 to 80% of the time. So it's very important that we understand how to fit runs. And in 22 years of coaching high school football, the thing that I found out is the more simplistic and consistent you can keep the reads and the run fits, allowing your players to execute in a simple fashion while being able to practice the same reads and fits over and over and over again, the better chance you have at success. When you get schematically involved to where you're trying to run several different schemes or several different coverages, and the run fits or how the players react to blocks and fit to stop a run, when those things change, your players start to play slower because they're thinking too much about their reads, their block recognition, and where they fit based on the run scheme that they're playing, based on maybe the front of the coverage that you're in. So we approach it from a very simplistic 3-3 stack box with 6 players that are going to play C gap to C gap in our base system in a very simple and efficient manner. So that's one of the first reasons we do what we do. The versatility in it allows us to add movement. And when we add the movement in, it gives us the ability to get to different fronts like an over front or an under front or a bare front, just by adding a stack linebacker to the pressure or to the movement, and then moving the line in one direction or pinching the ends or a couple simple movements, and we can now get into multiple fronts. So we like being versatile as an odd front team and the simple movements that can put us into other fronts. We feel like the speed of it, because it's a 3-3-5 system, we're playing with 8 back-end players. So we're playing with 3 linebackers and 5 secondary players. We play with 3 safeties and 2 cornerbacks. So with 8 back-end players, we feel like we're able to get more speed on the field. More speed on the field, we think, enables us to eliminate big plays, keep the ball inside and in front of us so that, we can eliminate touchdowns and big plays, and we can get the ball to be snapped again so we can try and make another play and keep that other team out of the end zone. So more speed on the back end helps us eliminate big plays. At the school that I'm currently at, and I think this is very important for anybody coaching football at any level. The only thing that changes in the United States is as you get to college or the pros, those teams are able to go out and recruit their talent, and they're able to draft and sign players. Whereas in high school for us, we have to coach the players that are in our building. So it may be similar to some of the leagues that you guys are coaching in. If you have to coach the players that show up to your team, or for us that show up in our school, you have to make sure that the defense fits your personnel, because you can't go out and trade for people. You can't go out and sign kids. You can't go out and, search the free agent wire to get new players. So for us at our school, we can find safeties and linebackers. It's very tough for us to find good quality, big, athletic D linemen. So for us to play this 3-3 stack scheme, it allows us to find the kids in our school that we can find and eliminate some of the positions or the numbers from the positions that we cannot find. So the defense fits our personnel. And I think at the lower levels of football, when you're talking about youth football, middle school or junior high football, high school football, and then, maybe the situation you guys are in where you're playing, I think at those levels of football, it's very important for us as coaches to understand that what we want to do with our defense or our offense should fit the personnel that we have, because we can't really go out and fix our personnel like, the NFL can, or like Bayern Munich or, programs like that can go out and buy players. We can't do that. So we need to make sure that we fit our system to our personnel. And then one of the big reasons we also do it is it's different, which means it creates more work for opposing coaches and players. So because it's different and it's not what you see a lot of the time, we feel like during the week, the other schools have to, they have to prepare and do some things that they don't do every week to get ready to play us. So, the simplicity, the versatility, the speed, the personnel, and the different, schematically different are the reasons that we choose to play our 3-3 stack. Now, we play our 3-3 stack with what we call split field coverages. So I'll just go through what split field coverages are. If you guys are familiar with the term, that's great. If you're not familiar with the term, hopefully I can help you a little bit with what they are. So split field coverages are basically coverages that are independent of each other on each side. So what we do is we split the formations from where the football is, and there is a read side and an away side, or a strong side and a weak side. And the coverages we play on each side will be different based on the picture that our players see on that side. So the coverages are dictated by formation and deployment of receivers. So rather than us come out and say we're playing cover 3 or we're playing cover 2, we just make a base coverage call, and then our free safety on the back end will declare which side has more receivers to it, and that's the read side. And he will declare the coverage that we play based on the number of receivers and who those receivers are. And then our safety away from the free safety will declare the coverages on what we call the away side. Okay, so dictated by formation and deployment of receivers. And then there is a read side and away side. Every down, the free safety makes a call. It's simple for us. We call it Rip or Liz. Rip is right, Liz is left. Free safety makes that call, and he knows that the strong side of that passing formation is now on the side that he's declared, and the away side is to the other side. What it does is it gives you the flexibility to combine coverages and not get locked into calls. So you don't have to be locked into playing cover 3 no matter what that other team comes out in, or cover 2 no matter what that other team comes out in. you can get yourself into a system with a variety of coverages independent of each other on each side of the ball based on the split field coverage principle. So that simple base call that we make gives us a variety of coverage combinations, which in turn kind of makes it a version of check with me for coverage. So if you guys are familiar with the philosophy of check with me on offense, you know, that would be the philosophy of a quarterback coming up to the ball. He's got one or two plays called, and based on the defense, he might check out of one play into another play, or he might check and change the play completely based on the front he sees or the numbers in the box or the coverage that he sees. This is our way on defense to kind of use a check with me system for coverages. So it's a way for us to take a coverage and morph that coverage into what we want it to be based on who the receivers on the other team are. All right. So it ties into our 3-3 stack stuff because our 6-man box fits runs the way they fit it. And then our linebackers are in the coverages independently on each side. So sometimes we may have to teach a little bit more early on because those linebackers for us, when I get to the drawings, I'll explain it to you, but we don't switch sides. We don't play our linebackers strong and weak. We play them left and right. And when I get into the drawings, I'll get into kind of why we do that. But, you know, the bottom line, the whole system that I use at my high school is based on simplicity and teaching. It's based on the ability to be very simple and very efficient in our teaching so that we can get a lot of repetitions and hopefully get really good at something that we do. And, you know, the philosophy would be, you know, if we can cut down what we teach and what we do, and we can be 90% effective in what we're doing, you know, why be multiple and maybe do a lot of different things that confuses the offense, but we're only 50% effective doing those things. You know, let's make it a little bit simpler and try to be 90% effective in our reads and our fits and our coverages. And then we can build in some change-ups and some multiplicity from there. But in my experience, you know, in 22 years of coaching football and 20 years as a high school head coach and learning from making mistakes myself, the problem is as coaches, we get too into flexibility and versatility and trying to confuse the other team that we confuse our own players. So if your players can't execute your schemes, it really doesn't matter how many fronts, coverages, blitzes you have. If you can't play any of those effectively, it's kind of a waste of time. So, you know, what we do and the idea behind Play Fast Football in general is basically making everything simple so you can be efficient and then building multiplicity into that. All right, so let's get a little bit further. All right, so when we start to look at it, all right, for us in general, when we're talking about base defense, we have a read side and an away side. To the read side, we will basically play quarters coverage, all right, if there's a tight end and a flanker. We will play 2 read, or what some people refer to as palms coverage, if there's 2 open. That means 2 receivers that are not attached to the line. They're twins or open or detached from the formation. Mix or roll are our 2 3-by-1 trips checks, all right, in our base defense. And then Miami is a coverage where we can play man with the corner and the free safety, allowing our backers and our underneath players to concentrate more on their run fits and keep their underneath zone coverage principles intact. So we're playing a combination of man on the back with zone underneath. Now to the away side, it looks like we have more calls, but a lot of them are variations of the same thing, just doing it with different players. So to the away side, we can play 2 read, all right, which is our palms coverage if we had 2 open. We can play a hard cover 2, which means the corner is up as a press funnel flat force player, and the safety is deep, playing the deep half. We can play an inverted cover 2, where we bring the safety down to be the D-gap force player in the run game and the curl flat player in the passing game, and the corner is high. But those 2 coverages, the 2 hard and the 2 invert, they're basically philosophically the same coverage. They're just different kids playing the roles of force and flat and deep half, so it changes the look for the offense. We can play what we call a hawk coverage, which is man by the corner and man by the stack inside linebacker, with the safety playing what we would call, you know, the hawk roll for us is a vision and break type deal, where he's going to be an aggressive run player first. But if he gets a pass read, he's going to help to the side that the quarterback is looking. So he may open up and help the middle of the field if the quarterback looks strong, or he may open up and double the single or help the will on the backer if the quarterback looks to the single. So Hawk is kind of similar to quarters coverage in a way. It gives that weak safety on that side. It gives him the ability to be a real aggressive run fitter and run player while also helping where we need him in the passing game. And then lock is a deal where we simply have to play man-to-man based on the formation. So if we got some type of double tight set with double wides, so a 12 personnel type set where there's one running back and two tight ends and two receivers, to the away side of the coverage, we will be missing a down safety or an outside linebacker to play quarters. So we can't really play quarters to that set. So we would play quarters to the front side, okay? And then we would play lock man-to-man on the backside. So the safety would play man on the tight end, and the corner would play man on the split end or the flanker, because we don't have the extra player. And when I show you when I show you the drawings of quarters coverage, I'll show you the player that we would be missing and kind of explain it from there. Okay, so if we started off with a 10 personnel 2x2 set, all right, and hopefully you guys, if you are recording this, you can get it to a system where you could slow it down and pause it if you can't really see. My screen is full screen, so if you can't read the rules and whatnot, at least right now we can talk about it and go through it. So we're looking at a 10 personnel, and by 10 personnel I mean there's one back in the backfield with no tight end, so the other team has 4 wide receivers, and we're looking at what we would call a 2x2 open set. So none of the players are attached to the line or the guard and the tackle, or none of the players are in the core of the formation. They are detached or removed, so they are 2 open players. So our Palms coverage rules will apply on each side of the football. So what we need to do is first take a look at our 3-3 stack look, all right? And if you can see my arrow moving around on the screen, my mouse, we play an end on the left who is a 5 technique outside shade of the tackle. We play a nose that is head up on the center, and then we play on the away side, all right? We play the away side, what we call our anchor, all right, is our right end, and we never move our end. So our end that we label in drawings with an E is on the left, and our anchor that we label in drawings as an A is on the right. And the only reason we give them different names is because we teach our kids that the end stays on the left and the anchor stays on the right, so that they understand when we give them positions that the end will always be on the left and the anchor will always be on the right, for simplicity's sakes and the ability to line up. So in the box, in the core, that 3-3 stack that I talked about, we have a linebacker that gets paired with the end, a Mike backer that gets paired with the nose, and a ram backer that gets paired with the anchor. So right now, because of the 2x2 set, you can see the ram backer right here has walked a little bit, what we would call in a hip alignment, so that he can play the coverage part of the Palms coverage that he needs to play. But he is still the B-gap run fitter in this window right here, and he still makes all the same run reads, all right, off of the offensive tackle, and he fits with the anchor. So to keep it simplistic for you guys, what we do, all right, is our end and our lion, they both read the tackle on their side. If that tackle blocks out towards the end at all, the end plays the C gap and the lion plays the B gap in our run fits. All right, that's as easy as we make it for those kids. If that tackle blocks inside towards the football, what would be considered a veer release or a backside scoop in a zone scheme, if he goes inside towards the football at all, our end will chase and eliminate the B gap, and our lion would replace him and play the C gap. So our end backer and our lion backer on the left are playing the B gap and the C gap on the left side of our defense, the right side of the offensive formation. And they play it based on the block they get from that offensive tackle. So that gives us the ability, when we're working on run fits in our run package, stopping runs, that gives us the ability to get a ton of reps with different schemes and make those kids look at the block they are getting from the tackle and then fit the blocks accordingly and then defeat the block. So it's a block reaction into a block destruction. Block reaction is the block you see, and the stimulus is your response. All right. The stimulus is that block you see, and then your response is block reaction. Block destruction is now physically defeating a block, whatever the next block may be, or whatever the block you're getting. Once you've reacted to it, now you've got to defeat it. So when we go to do block reaction and block destruction, we can get a bunch of reps in there because the fits become so simplistic in nature. It allows us to get a ton of reps in a small period of time. The nose and the mic now fit the two A gaps. So what we do is we move the nose on every snap. So on every snap, the mic is going to tell the nose he's either going to make a Rob call or a Lou call. If the mic tells the nose Rob, the nose will play the right A gap, and on the snap of the ball, he will stunt and move into the right defensive A gap. Okay? If he makes a Lou call, the nose will stunt and move after the snap now. After the ball is snapped, the nose will stunt and move into the left A gap. The mic will play the A gap opposite of the nose, and that is how we will cancel those two A gaps with the nose and the mic. And it's that simplistic in nature, with the exception of when the mic gets pull schemes from the guard he's reading, then we've got to change up a little bit, but that's further down the road. For the simplicity of the 3-3 stack and how we do it, the mic and the nose cancel out the two A gaps. We move the nose with a Lou or a Rob call, and the mic plays the A gap opposite the nose. On the right side for us, the anchor and the ram play the same way the end and the lion do on the left. They are canceling the B and the C gap in the run game based on the blocks they get from the offensive tackle. If the offensive tackle blocks out at all towards the anchor, all right, this Rob will be a B gap player. The anchor will be a C gap player. If this end via releases, scoops, or inside releases towards the ball, then this anchor would chase and close the B gap, and this ram would become a C gap player. All right, and that from C gap to C gap in the run game, that is as simplistic with those six guys as we make it. And it allows us to fit things pretty consistently, and it allows us to get tons of reps on the block reaction, the run fit, and the block destruction part, which is the most important when it comes to stopping the run. Now, there are some runs and some schemes that give us a few issues, but those are things we address after we address the base defense. And then those are some things that we have to be able to move and stunt and add some backers into the movement to help, alleviate some of that pressure. But this is just talking right now. We are strictly talking base 3-3 stack defense. On the back end, and Coach, if there's any questions that come up, you can stop me at any time. If you want to unmute yourself or whatever,
Yes,
you can stop. You can stop and ask at any time, because I'll answer them, and I don't have my chat box open. So
I will, Coach. But I think
okay,
you covered up everything.
Thank you, sir. So all right, so now you're talking about, again, the tough thing about defensive football is you have two responsibilities on every play. You have a run responsibility and a pass responsibility, and we don't know which one we're going to play. Offense is a lot easier than defense, because once the play is called, everybody on offense has an assignment to execute. Offense knows whether it's a run play or a pass play. They know who they're blocking or what routes they're running. Defensively, we have to read and react to what the offense is doing, which makes defense a little bit tougher in nature, because we now have run assignments and pass assignments, whereas the offense already knows if they're a run or a pass assignment, because they are calling and dictating the action to the defense. So now on the back end, we are playing what we call our palms coverage, okay? And for us, when you look at this picture, I'm going to put my arrow, if you can see it, over the mic. We do not include the Mike linebacker in any of our coverages, all right, when we are playing base defense. The Mike linebacker is used as a spy on the quarterback, or if the quarterback leaves the pocket, the Mike linebacker is used as a secondary contained pull-up player if the quarterback scrambles or gets flushed out of the pocket. So because we eliminate the Mike from our coverages, we can now play the same 7-man structures that you guys are probably used to studying, and that you've studied, the entire time you guys have started learning and playing and coaching football. So once the Mike is removed, we get back to playing the same coverages pretty much as everybody else. So when we're playing our 2-read or palms coverage, all right, we basically have a corner and a safety. All right. So we have safeties that are what we call high on the hash mark, and then we have corners. And on each side, those two players are both reading the number 2 receiver to their side. All right. So our left corner and our free safety will read number 2. Our right corner and our right safety will read number 2. And that's how they will figure out A, how we're going to play certain pass routes, and B, if we get stalk blocks or run blocks, how we then fit and where we fit in the run game. So from a passing structure, all right, if you can't read it, I'll just go through for the corner. If number 2 goes vertical, you will play all of number 1 except for any underneath 5 shallow crossing routes. All right, so if number 2 goes vertical, and by vertical, I mean he is straight down the field, deeper than this down safety. If he is deeper and outside the down safety vertically, that is a vertical release, and our corner will play all of number 1. If number 2 goes to the flat outside towards our corner, and he does it underneath the safety's level or depth, all right, our corner will jump down and play that number 2 receiver. Okay. If 2 goes underneath across the formation, under the backers, trying to go to the other side, okay, we will play pretty much all of number 1, including some of the shallow inside routes. All right. So the difference is the vertical release of 2, the outside release of 2, or the potential shallow underneath release of number 2. Okay. The safety is reading the same thing. All right. If 2 goes vertical, the safety plays him man to man. So if 2 is vertical, running at him past the down safety outside linebacker's depth, this free safety will then play that man to man. He buys that and owns that route man to man. If 2 goes outside to the flat towards the corner, the rotation will become the corner down to number 2 and the safety over the top to number 1. So that's something that you have to drill over and over again, the reaction of what happens when that number 2 receiver goes to the flat, because it's going to change how you play coverage. If that 2 receiver goes under, all right, if that 2 receiver goes under, in other words, that number 2 tries to go under the safety and the backers and across the formation, it's what we would call a game plan situation based on what the other team does. We might have this safety steal or rob the routes of this number 1. We might have this safety look backside for number 1 or number 2 coming across, because normally with the front side 2 going shallow or under, somebody from the backside, they're probably trying to create some type of high-low on the linebackers in the middle. So whether it be from the front side number 1 in what would be called a drive theory, or a backside guy in what would be called a mesh or a shallow type theory, we will game plan what we want to do with that safety based on the underneath release of number 2. Okay. Now that coverage is played the same way by the corner and the safety that's high on the other side. So when we rep this, we rep it in a half field situation, because all of our corners and all of our safeties can get all the same reps on one side of the ball because the coverage is the same. All right. You're just playing it on a different side of the field. So one day we might do all our work on the left side, and the next day come out and do all our work on the right side in what we call a half line drill to teach and rep our coverages. And then later on in the practice, we might put the whole defense out there. So it's kind of what's called a whole part whole, or a chalk talk walk type scenario of teaching, where, you put it in on the board, you go out and talk about it on the field, and then you go through it. So we would put it in on the board, we would teach it in a half line scenario, and then we would teach it as part of the full coverage. But the corner and the safety on both sides are playing the same exact rules in coverage. The 2 underneath players are playing the same rules, all right, in coverage, which is what we call swing deep of 3, all right? So in other words, they're trying to stop the number 2 receiver from crossing their face or getting inside, all right? So the left safety for us here and our ram backer are what we call the palms droppers in this coverage. They're trying to play wall of 2, don't let them cross your face. Don't let number 3, which is the back, get wider than you, which is called out leveraging you. So we don't want this back to out leverage us or get wider than us. So we are going to stay inside number 2 as long as we can, unless 3 pushes wide to affect our leverage, then we will expand and push with number 3. If number 3 tried to run the wheel route, which is out and up, Okay, so 3 tries to go out and up. That player is responsible for carrying that wheel man to man. Okay, so in this diagram, our left safety and our ram are playing the same version of coverage on their side of the ball. The 3 dropper, all right, is in this defense right now is the lion, because the passing strength is to the left and the free safety made a Liz call. So the lion is part of what we call the read side. So he is what we call a hook curl player off of number 3, which is the back. If number 3 were to go vertical, he would have to match and carry, all right, that route man to man. So if this back goes vertical, this backer has to carry him man to man. If this back pushes wide, this backer will expand to find the newest number 3, which will be one of these 2 receivers coming back inside. That's what you generally refer to as a pattern match defense, or a pattern read defense, is we'll match the patterns based on the distribution of the patterns in the routes. Okay, so I know that's a lot of big words or fancy words, but if you guys are doing clinics and studying things online and studying the football, I know you guys are diligently doing, then you'll understand pattern read and pattern match. Pattern reads are not all the same. Rip Liz cover 3 is not the same as what we do in palms or quarters, but pattern read, pattern match is a term that everybody needs to kind of understand on the defensive side. So our lion is what we call hook curl of 3. We just call him a 3 dropper, and then he's got to play number 3 vertical. Okay. So let's get to okay, so now what I've got drawn up here is a scenario where it's a 2-by-2 formation, okay, but the ball is on a hash mark. So now that the ball is on the hash mark and into the boundary, there is less room for the offense to work. We can now play some different things on the backside. So what I have drawn up right now is a traditional cover 2 coverage where we are not going to read and play our coverage off the number 2. We're going to play a traditional cover 2, which means this corner is going to play a hard, flat funnel. He's going to jam number 1 outside in, force number 1 to inside release to the safety, and he's going to be that curl flat player on the outside. Our ram, instead of playing the palms drop or the swing deep of 3, he just becomes a hook curl player, and he stays in his hook curl window, and he doesn't worry about expanding with 3 like he did in palms, because the corner is out there playing the flat. Our safety plays the deep half of the coverage. And to the field side, we play the same coverage we played on the other side, and that's where split field coverage comes into play. We're now playing palms to the field, but we're playing hard traditional cover 2 to the boundary, and that's the essence of split field coverage. This same formation that we just talked about, we now play slightly different with the ball on the hash mark and adding 1 tag into the call, if that makes sense to you guys. Okay, so that is what split field coverage means. We don't have to play. Now, we will play palms on both sides a lot of the times, but with the ball on a hash mark, we might be able to tag it that week based on what the offense does and get into a cover 2 look with the ball on a hash mark, because there's less stretch and less things they can do into the boundary. All right, and we can use our corner as a force player in the run game, because we feel like into the boundary he can get there. If we did this with the ball in the middle, we would lose a run player because the corner will never get there with the ball in the middle. Okay. All right, so that is what this is now. This diagram is now palms to the field, or the right side. So the strength is on the right. We're now playing palms to the right, and they made a lock call on the back. So they're playing man-to-man on the corner on 1, man-to-man the safety on 2. This backer has 3 if he releases to his side out. These guys play 4-on-3 palms rules. So again, another piece in the toolbox with split field coverage to be able to do some things differently to one side of the field and the other. And, game plan would dictate why you would do that, how you would want to do that, what the offense is trying to do, to where, that would dictate why you may want to play. They might be throwing a lot of quick balls to the boundary or things underneath routes into the boundary or the short side of the field. And we may just want to tell that side, hey, you guys get up there and play it a little bit tighter, press number 1, play 5 yards off, catch man on number 2, take away that quick game, and we'll still play palms out here to the field. Let me get into hopefully some of my. Okay, so Now what we've got is we're getting into 21 personnel sets. So when I say 21 personnel, what I mean is 2 backs, 1 tight end, 2 receivers. So here you can see they have 2 backs. All right. They have 1 tight end. All right. So they have 2 backs and they have 1 tight end. All right. And they have 2 removed receivers to what we would consider the passing strength. So this situation or this diagram on the right is nothing new for those 4 players. So the Ram, the right safety, the free safety, and the corner play palms or 2 read coverage on this side. Okay. To the away side, we now have a situation where we have a single receiver that is a nub attached tight end. So now we play what we call sky coverage, which means the safety is down playing the D gap force in the run game and the curl flat of the passing game. And the corner is now high playing the deep half, okay, of the defense in pass coverage. But he's also playing what we call a flat foot robber read, so that if they ran the ball to this side and the tight end blocked, he would come down and be an extra fitter in the run game. Because the reason teams play this nub tight end to the backside is to eliminate somebody from the run fit and try to get an extra number. So we've got to add the corner to the run fit to take away that extra number. Get out of some of these. Okay. All right. So now what we're in is now we're in 21 personnel pro sets. I don't know. I know that the football, the offensive football that we see here in America and in high school, I know what the trends of football here in America are. I really don't know per se what you guys see, but 21 personnel used to be really prevalent in football, and it kind of went away and went to more 20 personnel, 10 personnel, spread the field, 11 personnel, 1 back, 1 tight end. The game has become way more spread orientated with quarterback runs and putting athletes in space. So 21 personnel is something that you really don't see a lot of anymore. But our base defense and with our split field coverage, we base as a quarters defense. So we have to address 21 personnel pro sets just like this, with the passing strength being where the tight end is, so that we can teach our kids how to play quarters defense. Now, ironically, this is usually where we start a lot of our teaching, but at the same time, it's one of the formations we see the least amount throughout the year in 2019, 2020, the way the game's being played right now. So for us, the 3-3 stack box remains the same. Our split field coverage calls now become quarters to the field, all right, and what we call hawk into the boundary, all right? So what quarters does is it makes a slight adjustment. We are no longer reading the number 2 receiver with the corner and the safety, all right? We are now taking the corner and tell him to play man-to-man on number 1, unless you get any inside releases under 5 yards, all right, which we would call shallow, or those under releases. You'll play man-to-man on number 1, except for those shallow releases. The left safety is now the D-gap force player in the run game, and what we call a curl flat swing deep of 2 player. So he's a curl flat dropper in the pass game, and he's got number 2 if number 2 decided to run a wheel, which is to the flat and up, which is different than his rule and palm. So it's a different coverage for him. The linebacker to that side is still the hook curl player, and he still has to match on number 3 vertical. So his rule really doesn't change all that much from palms. It's very similar. The free safety now plays what we call quarters flat foot reads. So he's going to be aggressively involved in the run game between what we call the alley between the left safety and the line, okay, if he gets run. If he gets pass, he matches a number 2 vertical, and any other release by number 2, whether it's a flat release or an under release, okay, we generally rob the posted curl of this number 1 receiver. So this free safety is looking at that tight end. If that tight end blocks and has a very aggressive low pad level, and it's run game, our free safety is going to come downhill and get involved in the run game. If this tight end releases in a pass route straight vertically at the free safety plays him man-to-man. If this tight end goes outside to the flat or underneath the backers to the other side, okay, sorry. If he goes outside to the flat or underneath the backers to the other side, he robs the posted curl of number 1 unless we want to game plan him to rob something from the backside here. Now on the backside, because it's a split field coverage principle, they have one single receiver, all right, with two backs in the backfield. So our standard generic call for us is hawk, which means the corner plays man on one, the ram plays man on any two receiver out, okay? The right safety is a flat foot read player who is aggressively fitting the run game. And if he gets past, he will help where the quarterback then looks. We call it vision and break. So he's 8 yards off the ball, about a yard or two outside the tackle, flat foot, all right, not backpedaling. Flat foot, buzz your feet, road runner technique. If it's run game, he's coming downhill aggressively. If it's outside run, he's going to try and fit it outside in. If it's an inside run, he's going to play either in front of or behind that ram backer based on where that ram backer is. Okay. The only adjustment we have to make in this coverage is our Mike has to understand if they flood the coverage with both backs weak, our Mike has to, all right, now become a part of the coverage, which I know I told you that our Mike is not part of our base coverages, and he's not. There are certain coverages, though, where they can get an extra player out where we have to involve the Mike. So the Mike would only get involved if both backs flooded weak side. So that is a look at a 21 personnel deal where the read side is left. So the free safety made a Liz call. The left safety goes down to be an outside linebacker, if you want to call him that, because he's on the free safety side. He's on the passing strength. The backside, all right, because the free safety made a Liz call, the backside, the right safety now controls the coverages, and the right safety makes a hawk call because he sees a single receiver, all right? And that is how we start off in base playing, a single receiver with two backs in the backfield. This safety could also make a sky call and come down low. He could make a hard call and let the corner be the force player. Those are all game plan deals that we can mess with or deal with in a different scenario, okay? So now we're moving on to 11 personnel, where we're talking about a team that's got one back and one tight end, which means they've got three receivers. This is a 2x2 balance set, okay? The passing, how you determine 2x2 with a tight end is kind of a gray area that you have to delineate what you want to do and how you want to do it, because there's two receivers to each side. Technically, the passing strength would be the side that's got the two open receivers, because they are better receivers than the tight end is. So this H is a better receiver than the tight end. So the two better receivers, or more quote unquote receiver types, are over here. But the tight end creates another gap in the run game, and high school is 80 to 85% run. So we want to make sure we take care of run game first. So we start versus tight end 2x2 formations. We start with a rule for our free safety to set the passing strength to the tight end flanker side. Now, that is an adjustment to the normal passing strength rule, okay? The reason we make that adjustment is to solidify gaps in the run game here, and it allows us to still play a base coverage two read palms back here. So this left corner, left safety, and linebacker, they already know how to play palms to two remove receivers. So them playing palms and this linebacker fitting the B gap and runs is something that they already know how to do based on the 2x2 sets that we've already defended. To this side, all right, all we do is we play quarters like I just showed you in the 21 personnel grouping. We play quarters to this side. So again, corners man on one except shallow inside releases. This right safety is now playing what the left safety played in the last diagram that I showed you. He is D-gap force, curl flat, carry number 2 if he goes on a wheel, which is out and up, okay? The ram backer is the hook curl, match the 3 vertical. So he's a hook curl dropper unless the back tries to go vertical, then he's got to match him. The free safety plays the same rules I just described to you in the last scenario, which is aggressively fitting the run, 8 yards in the C gap, buzz your feet, do not backpedal. Tight end puts his hands on somebody, let's get downhill and fit that alley between the ram and the right safety. If 2's vertical, tight end's vertical, let's play a man-to-man. If 2 is in and under or out towards the corner or the flat, we will rob the posted curl of number 1. So all of these slides, and hopefully if you guys, and I know coach is recording this, hopefully you guys, when you get a chance, if this is being recorded, you can go back and watch it again when coach posts it wherever he's going to use it, so that you can pause the different scenarios and look. All I'm doing is presenting the same styles of coverage to different formations and fitting the pieces together. That's what split field coverage is. So we've already talked about 2 read to each side. We've talked about playing 2 read to a side and maybe cover 2 or man to the other side. We talked about quarters to one side and hawk to another side. Now we're talking about quarters to one side and 2 read to the other side. So getting back to one of my original points on the philosophy of what we're doing is we are simply playing all the same coverages, but we're mix and matching them with each other so that it gives the illusion of being very multiple to the offense. But our kids are playing the same 3 coverages we've talked about over and over and over again. We're just mixing and matching to the read side and the away side what we are playing. So we give different looks to the offense, and we give the opinion of, being multiple and different. But our kids are playing the same thing. That's the beauty of split field coverages.
Coach, one question.
Yes, sir.
How do you mix the coverages to disguise what you're playing, or do you?
Okay, so the biggest deal, coach, and all that is we try to stay too high as much as possible. So when the free safety makes that rip or Liz call, when he goes to his side, the safety to his side has no choice but to be a down player. It's the safety away from the rip Liz call. He needs to stay at 8 to 10 yards high, giving the illusion of a too high defense. And then based on the coverage that he calls, either him or the corner have to then kind of creep down and spin to their assignment based on the call. So the illusion that you want to be able to create is like in this diagram right here, coach, where I have us playing what's called 2 sky with the safety down and the corner deep. If this safety could align where my mouse arrow is at the beginning of the formation, and then what we call spin or walk down to the flat, that's how you disguise the coverages, because you always start in what looks to be a too high shell.
Okay, great.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Once you spin and once you get to where you have to be in the run game and in the pass coverage, hopefully that is post snap, so that the quarterback has already got to look at what he thinks and not pre-snap so the quarterback can look at it. But to be honest with you guys, a lot of the times, we worry more about the execution of the defense than the disguise until we get really good. So if I've had kids that have worried so much about the disguise of the defense that when the ball is snapped, they can't play their assignment, and that is not good, because you've disguised and maybe fooled the offense, but you can't play your assignment. So it's kind of a thin line between when and where. You have to know your players and know the kids that are doing it to understand when they are good enough and smart enough to disguise the look and still get to where they need to be to execute, if that makes sense. I think there's another question in there, coach.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, coach, I'm just wondering your rules for this. Are your players making the call on the field, or do the rules dictate play side, open side, strong side, weak side? Or is there flexibility there for them to make on-field adjustments themselves, or does that have to come from you?
Yes, sir. Scottish or Irish, Dara?
Dara, sorry, Irish.
Irish. Oh, good for you.
Hey, coach, good notice.
I'm actually Scottish descent. So here's the beauty of it, Dara. You start teaching all the rules to the base coverages that you want, and then you give your players the flexibility based on the deployment of the receivers, who those receivers are, and then the game plan each week to what the other team does and how good those receivers are. You give your players the flexibility to call the coverages based on those things. Okay. Now, you still, as a coach, I can still dictate what I want the kids to play to certain looks and not give them the freedom to adjust. But the whole system in itself is kind of based on your kids seeing pictures and making calls based on the picture they see, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
So, like, if you're playing safety, Derek, and you're the free safety and you're calling the strength, you know that a tight end and a flanker is going to make you call our quarters coverage, but you know that a slot receiver and a flanker, which we call two open, that's going to make you call palms or two read. So as the free safety, you're calling the coverage, but you know the picture is dictating which coverage you're calling.
Okay, gotcha.
And then on the backside, that's where we try to build flexibility on the backside to see, A, what is the offense trying to do to us, and B, who is this single receiver on the backside? So if this single receiver is somebody that they love to throw the ball to, well, then we're going to have to help this guy a little bit and do some things that take away quick and easy throws over there. And if the ball's on a hash mark, that changes a little bit. So initially, the rules are taught into coverages so that your kids can get out there and line up to about anything you see. And then as a coach, each week in the game plan, based on the opponent you're playing, you then kind of tell the kids what you would like to do. So there's been games, Dara, where we've gone out and said, all right, to the away side of the coverage, if the ball's on a hash mark, you make this call. If the ball's in the middle, you make this call if you're facing one receiver. So they would know going in that week, if they have a single receiver with the ball on a hash mark, they make a two cloud or a two hard call. But if the ball's in the middle, they make a two sky call.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's just, if they're in sort of 2 minute, 4 minute offense, and there's just so much going on.
Yes.
You're kind of giving them. I hate giving my guys too much to think about. So you've answered really well there. As in, you're giving them the freedom, but it's also structured. You're giving them freedom, but the structure to make the call that they want. Yeah, no, that's cool.
So what I would say, Dara, in that situation is if they start amping it up with the tempo and 2 minute, 4 minute stuff, tell your kids to just play base, whatever your base rules are. So if you grab your kid to say, hey guys, look, they're amping the tempo. If there's two receivers weak, you're playing palms. If there's one receiver weak, you're playing sky. Get lined up and play.
Yeah, it's just, I like to run a lot of zero and stuff as well. So if that happens, I'll just either go quarters or zero.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons we like playing with 5 DBs and 3 safeties, because at any time you want to play man stuff, we feel like we have the ability to do so.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Coach. Thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you, Derek. Go Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
Or I like Graham McDowell too. There was I think there were 2 other questions in there, Coach, somewhere.
Yes, sir. If you just switch the coverage, so if they go in a motion like in this picture, so going to 2x2, do you switch with the motion, the rules? Do they communicate or do they stay by the rules?
That depends. That depends on who our kids are, how long they've been in the system. If so, right now, for argument's sake, if they went from 3x1 and a guy motioned over to 2x2, that is not what you would consider a change of strength motion. So it doesn't involve any movement of our players. If we had players who had been in our system long enough, they would go from this 3x1 mix call to make a palms call on both sides of the ball, because both sides would end up in 2x2 removed, if that makes sense to you.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Now, if and I'll go back a little bit. Where am I? What timestamp? 1:20:19. Okay. Now, a situation like this, guys, where it's 2x2, any motion across from one of these receivers is going to be a potential change in strength motion. So now, depending on your players, you have to understand, can your free safety go with that and redeclare the coverage? And can all those kids play the new coverage on both sides of the ball? Or do you just possibly spin to the middle and play some type of 3 deep? Those are the basic 2 answers. And for us, they're predicated on how long. When I first get to a program or a school, motion like that, we would probably just spin and play 3 deep and make it as easy as possible. If I have kids that have played for me for a couple of years that understand the system, we might try and travel with that motion and redeclare the coverage, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. So it just swaps in the best way.
Yeah, so you could move your free safety, and then if you have time to do it, depending on how quickly they snap the ball, you could move your free safety, and he can make the coverage call, mix palms, whatever it is, to the side of the change, and then the backside now has a change. So they went from 2 receivers to 1, so they go from maybe palms to playing sky or hawk. So it just involves changing. You're not playing new coverages. You're just changing while they're motioning, which is a lot of work. Or the easiest thing when I get to a new place is we just spin to the middle and play 3 deep. It's the safest, easiest thing to do. But I don't like doing it because when teams know that that's your motion check, they'll get you, you know, they'll motion just because they know it puts you in 3 deep, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much.
Now, one more thing, Coach, to keep in mind, you also got to remember, like Coach added in, if you're playing zero or man, now you're going to run with that motion. So not everything looks the same to the offense. So it's not like they can sit back there and know exactly what you're going to do. So your other coverages, your man coverages and your blitzes, you might run with that motion. So it is a little bit different. So you can't get too freaked out about it.
Gotcha.
Was there another one in there? I thought I saw somebody else raise their hand.
No, I think we have got everything covered up.
We got to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so one of the last things I'll probably be able to talk about, and then maybe we'll take some questions because I think we're almost at an hour. It doesn't matter to me. I can stay, but I know you guys have another speaker later. So 3x1 is another adjustment that you have to make within the coverage rules, all right, because it's something that you have to have in your base package because you're going to see these sets. So 3x1 open like this is what we call a mixed coverage, and it's still a split field coverage. It doesn't involve us using our backside safety to the front side of the coverage, and this is why a 3 safety structure is the most flexible you can play versus 10 personnel teams of this type. Because what it does, it allows us to play man on the number 1 receiver and eliminate him. So I'm going to put my mouse right here, and just imagine drawing an X over the receiver where my mouse is, and you take him out of the picture because the corner's playing him man, so we don't have to equate for him in any of our other pattern matching rules. So the corner plays man on him and eliminates him, which leaves us with 2 open receivers left, which allows us to play Palms rules like we always do. The only difference is we're now doing it with 2 safeties instead of a safety and a corner, which is where I mentioned earlier, the teaching to this left safety is a little bit more involved because he has a few different roles in pass coverage. So these kids need to be flexible, smart, athletic kids that have to be able to learn 1 or 2 extra things. But what it does is it allows you to play the same style coverages. You're just doing it with different players. So now we're going to go back to that Palms or 2 read rule. All right. So we're going to X out or eliminate that number 1 because we're playing him in man. So don't count him in any of your pattern match. Go ahead and play your 2 read rules. So now left safety and free safety read the release of this, all right, number 3 receiver. Okay. Remember, though, what I said, if you were to X out or erase this number 1 receiver, it's the same as your 2 read in Palms. Okay. So he's the number 1, he's the number 3 receiver because you count from outside in. So this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3. The way we teach our kids is I would erase this number 1 receiver from the formation and say, guys, we're playing him man-to-man. Don't count him in any of our pattern match. I would then ask our kids how many receivers are left. They would answer 2. And I would say, okay, play 2 read off of those 2 receivers the way we do everything else. So now, all right, he's going to read that number 3 by alignment. If that 3 is vertical, you play all of 2 except inside shallow releases. If that 3 goes to the flat, you play number 3 right now. Free safety reads the same thing. 3 vertical, play him man-to-man. 3 to the flat, get to the top of number 2. 3 goes under. All right, we can get our eyes and help to see what 2's doing, or we can game plan the adjustments there. The underneath linebacker, all right, again, the only difference from the Palms diagram is now he's not, all right, he's the Palms dropper, not the middle hole player. So now he's got the swing deep of 3, which right now in the formation, this is number 4. All right, so count 1, 2, 3. The back makes number 4. So without confusing you, in the formation, the back is number 4. But when we teach it, we eliminate this player because we're playing a man-to-man, and we teach it as 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I have some other YouTube videos and things on this if that confuses you, but this is technically what we would call the number 4 strong or the number 2 weak. Okay, the reason this diagram says wall 3 and expand with 4 is because that's how you originally count it: 1, 2, 3, 4 strong. But once you teach an X out theory, which means you X out a player because you're playing a man, technically you can say that that's 1, 2, and 3, which is the same as your palms rules when you teach him in the beginning. So he's going to try and not let this 3 cross his face, not let this 4 out leverage him. Okay. So what he has to understand, all right, is 3 doesn't cross my face, 4 doesn't out leverage me. This is the only coverage where we may need the mic involved. All right. Very similar to the way we talked about the mic would have to get involved in the 2x1, 2-back set if they flooded the backs to the same side. If this 4 receiver goes strong, the mic's got to get involved. So if this 4 receiver pushes strong, the mic's got to push to the new number 3. If this 4 receiver goes vertical, the mic's got to play that 4 receiver vertical. If this receiver goes weak, the mic doesn't have to be in the coverage at all. And we have some other adjustments that we make based on where that back is, and we change the coverage so we can avoid a lot of that stuff. But again, that's one of the scenarios that you have to progress to in the teaching progression, and you have to get to with your mic linebacker to understand why he's in the coverage when 90% of the time he's not in the coverage. So in an hour Zoom call setting like this, that is probably not a great discussion right now because it's a little advanced and a little more involved. To the weak side, we're playing what we call 2 sky, and what that means is it's a spot drop. This right safety's got the curl flat, and then he wheels to number 2. This Ram linebacker's got hook curl. This corner's got deep half, all the deep routes of number 1. So it's still a mixed coverage philosophy because we're handling the 3 receivers over here, all right, and we're getting 1, 2, 3, 4 on 3. Add the mic if the back comes over here to give us 5 on 4, and we will always have 1, 2, 3 on 2 weak in the passing game, weak side. And one of the first things, you guys, you've probably heard it before, but if you haven't, in the passing game, always try and get +1. So if they got 3 receivers, let's have 4 for 3. If they got 2, let's have 3 for 2. If they add a 3rd receiver over there, let's get the mic to make it 4 for 3. If they push strong, let's get the mic to make it 5 for 4. So 3x1 is kind of, all right, one of the only times we've got to push the mic strong. If this back goes weak, we already have 3 for 2. We don't need the mic. If the back goes strong, all right, we need the mic to make 5 for 4, if that makes sense. So you guys let me know what you want to do or how you want. We're at an hour. I am good as long as you guys want to go. Any other questions you have or anything else you want me to talk about, I am good. I can go till you guys tell me not to.
Yeah, I think we have a little bit time, Coach. So if you would like to continue, it would be great. I think you're dropping.
Okay, here's what I'm going to try and do if possible. I'm going to try and not have my daughters come out and drive me nuts. They can't see the screen, honey. They won't see you.
Oh, man.
So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to try and find one of my other posts where we actually had some film clips of what it looks like. And then I will kind of talk through some of those and play through some of those. And those clips are on a site called patreon.com, which is a separate subscription site that I have outside of YouTube. And it costs guys $5 a month to be a subscriber. And when on that site, I show clips and film of other things simply because it's a subscription site and I can show some other things. So these are all the things that are on that Patreon site. As I scroll through them and see my screen, you can see Q&As and live sessions. And then there's about a 10 or 15 minute presentation from the speaker that you guys have next, Adam Carter, because he was at our clinic. So we loaded some of the guys that were at our clinic. We loaded up like 10-minute segments of them on there. So somewhere on here, and I apologize, my computer is slow. This laptop is not very good, but somewhere on here I have an actual clinic tape of some of our 3-3 stack run fits. And then kind of what it looks like, you know, looking at those 2 sets or some of those sets that we talked about. So hopefully you guys can see all this.
Yeah, it's loading.
Great laptop I have, huh? It's called being a school teacher in the United States. I don't make enough money to get a good laptop.
Yeah.
And my other computer, I just I've got a base station in my room that's a regular computer tower. That's not a laptop that I do more things on. And come on. So this laptop, because it doesn't have enough memory on it, when I go from Zoom to another application, starts to slow down a bunch because I'm in Zoom and running another application. So I do a lot of my live stuff on a different computer, but now that computer all of a sudden is telling me I've got a hard disk problem and a drive failure. And hold on. So what you're actually seeing, guys, is this is a Zoom from my other site. This is a Zoom that I'm doing where I share my screen and I talk through what's going on. So what I wanted to do is just give you guys some pictures of what it looks like without me talking through the whole thing. Okay, so what you're looking at here, okay, is you're looking at a 2x1 set. So the offense has got two backs, but they don't have a tight end in. So they've got two split open receivers to the top and one receiver to the bottom. So within our rules, we are going to play two read to the two receivers to the top. So you can see that's my free safety that made a Liz call. That's the left safety that comes down to be the outside backer, whatever you want to call him now. We call him a down safety. Okay, so now corner, free safety, down safety, and this linebacker, they are playing the palms part of the coverage. To the backside, we made a hawk call, so we come up here and aggressively play man-to-man. All right. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good. So I muted the video itself, so you won't hear me talking in the video, so I can just keep talking. So now you see two open to one to the bottom. We got hawk rules down here. So here's that other safety that I was talking about that we are going to play as aggressive as possible. So this safety is going to flat foot run read, and if he gets run, he's going to get involved real quick. If it's play action pass, he's going to play him man, and he's going to play any back or number two out man to man. So he really doesn't have a pass responsibility other than being an extra player that is helping. So you can see on this other site, what I actually do is I actually go through and draw on there our run fits and how we would do those things. So because that's a subscription site that guys pay a monthly fee for, I'm way more involved with what I show and what I give them than I am on YouTube, simply because guys are paying $5 a month, so I can give them more, whereas YouTube is free. So you can see right there, I'm just going through the run fits. So where my mouse is, that's my defensive end. The tackle blocked out on him, so he plays the C gap. This is the fullback going to ISO. So right there on that side, you can see our end in the C gap and our fullback in the B gap. All right, to this bottom side, I think they block down or inside, so our end back here is chasing. So what I'm doing is I'm just going through film and showing guys how we fit runs in a 3-3 stack and what it actually looks like. So I'm putting pictures and film with what we're doing. All right, so here's an end zone copy of what a formation would look like and how we're playing it. All right, and then what I do is I take guys through it and I talk about the reads and what we would do and how we would do it. All right, so that tackle block down, so I'm showing you now that end should close and come all the way down inside, and this stack backer plays, all right, the C gap there. So I'm actually taking guys through. So I'm, apologize. I'm taking guys on that site. I'm taking guys through the pictures and the run fits. So now after showing you kind of chalk, talk, walk, however you want to look at it, or having a Zoom conference like we just had with diagrams, I now have on this site, I now have film to show, so you can now see. So what this is here, all right, is this is now a look at the formation I showed you. They've got 2 open receivers to the bottom. So our free safety is here, and he made a Liz call and a Palms call. So corner, safety, left safety, that linebacker would be playing Palms. And then to the top, that player is my safety playing sky or D-gap force, and that's my corner playing the top of what we call the nub tight end. All right, and if you went back in that, when you go back on a recording of that Zoom call, there's a formation up there that I had drawn up that was twins, open twins, and then closed nub on the backside. So now this corner, you can see how tight to the box he is and how flat-footed he is. He's going to be a run player if that tight end, which they do, he just misses the tackle. What I'm trying to show you, and I'm trying to show the people on the website right now, is how that corner becomes an extra player in the run game in this coverage. So you can see my mouse moving around because I'm physically talking over. So what you can see there, guys, that's what it sounds like on the video when I'm talking through. I'm describing, I'm on my huddle. I have these clips that I'm drawing, and I'm talking through all the pictures and all the fits on that site, which is different than I do. I don't do that on my YouTube site. I only do whiteboard stuff on my YouTube site. So now when I do something like this, it becomes more of a clinic setting. So what I'm talking about is to that nub side, how that corner who's playing the high part of the half coverage, he really only needs to play the high part of the half coverage if the tight end releases. If the tight end doesn't release, there's nobody else that can beat him on that side of the formation high. So if the tight end blocks, we can get him as an extra run defender, which we did on this clip, and he actually fit that run at about 1 yard from the line of scrimmage. He just missed the tackle. And I'm going to try and go back a little bit so you can see that. So when you look at this picture that I'm going through right now, here's the down marker. It's 3rd and 5. What you're going to see at the point of contact is you're going to see our corner unblocked on the tailback at about 1 yard. If we make that tackle, it's 4th and 4. We just lose that one-on-one battle. And I know what you would think, it's not a great battle, tailback on corner, but it's better than not having a player there at all. So we've got a player there at 1 yard ready to make a tackle. We just don't make the tackle. But the scheme is sound. The scheme is consistent. Because by putting a tight end on that backside, they're adding a helmet. By adding a helmet, we've got to come up with ways to add a helmet in, because they're removing one of our players. This backer has to walk out in palms. This free safety has to be over number 2. So because we don't have that, we've got to equate. All right, there's the down marker. There's the tailback. There's our corner. If we make this tackle here, even if we get run over, it's 4th and 1 or 2 or 4th and 3. We just missed the tackle. All right, so schematically, you can see the scheme is sound. It's just a matter of that kid making a tackle. Now, I know a lot of guys say they don't want their corner in the run game. I get all that. But at some point, eventually, based on formations and numbers and other things, at some point, you've got to get guys involved. So again, you can see here an end zone copy look of a play, and I'm diagramming with all the lines what the block recs are and where we need our guys and how the end should play it and how the stack should play it, how the nose plays it, how the mic plays it. All right, so this actually gives me, you know, a website that I can clinic more and do more things with video. So what you see there, guys, is just, again, a site where I'm going through, talking about run fits, looking at pictures, talking about all the different things and how we would do it, you know, different things. And then I'm so it's just a site where I can show film and now draw things up and show you how we fit runs and how our guys play things and how we line up so that you can put pictures. All right. So then you get an end zone copy here of a gap scheme. All right. So what I'm doing is I'm showing how the end goes down inside. We scrape and replace with our backers and how we get extra bodies to the front side. All right. And then so again, it's a way for me to show guys what it looks like, what we look like, how we line up. And then I could actually draw and talk through stuff. So you can see there, it's just, you know, it's a site where I'm able to use film, and that's how I would teach guys off of film. We've got end zone copies, we got wide copies. Now you can see where we're lined up. You can see what we're doing, how we're doing it. And then we go through and talk about chasing and different things and whatnot. So, you know, just so you guys can see that that's kind of what we look like. I hate doing stuff and, you know, without showing anybody anything, and it all sounds good on paper, but then when you turn the film on, it doesn't look anything like that. I just want to make sure that everybody kind of was on the same page to say, hey, you know, no, that's, you know, all the stuff we drew up, that's exactly what it looks like. So when we see it on film, it better look, you know, kind of similar, you know. So now when you see it on film, there's the 3-3 box, there's the Palms coverage side, there's the Hawk or Sky or whatever coverage side we're playing there. And then we can go through and talk about the different run fits and anything else. So anything else you guys want to go over, discuss?
Yeah, I think Coach presented us a really great resource. I think what you're doing with your YouTube channel and the Patreon site is really amazing, and I think you're doing a big part to educate coaches all around the world. And you presented us today a lot of detailed information. I really liked how you break down the different coverages. You presented that so much. You're still there?
Am I still here?
Okay, he presented us so many detailed information. Yeah, from my point of view, I didn't have any questions. You answered everything. Coaches, any other questions?
I think I see three. Are the three questions or the stuff in the chat box that I see now, is that the questions we already asked?
Yes. Yeah, we
Okay.
have everything covered up from that standpoint. We don't have any actual questions.
Just quickly, Coach,
Yes, sir.
You have a link to your Patreon site? I wouldn't mind taking a look.
Yeah, hold on. It's just it's patreon.com / Coach Mac. So it's I don't have my screen's not shared anymore.
I'll scribble it down here. Okay.
It's Coach. It's patreon.com / Coach Mac.
Okay, gotcha. Appreciate you,
And
Coach.
then again, along with my YouTube stuff that you guys have probably seen some of it, you can get that stuff at any time. The Patreon site was something that I started doing in like January, and I started doing podcasts and some other things. And just as I got that site rolling with information, the coronavirus stuff hit, and I lost my ability to, I didn't have spring football to put film up, and I lost my ability to do podcasts with the person that I was podcasting with because of social distancing and other reasons. And so the Patreon site's got a bunch of information on it, but a lot of it was stuff that was posted in December, January, February, coming off the clinic and everything else, because that's when we first started it. And then when I got into doing podcasts and some other things, it kind of went down. But I did just post 2 or 3 days ago, I posted about an hour and 45-minute Zoom interview with the guy that was my mentor in college that started me in coaching. So it's got a lot of great information that's not on YouTube because it's got film clips, and there's 2 webinars on there. There's a 3-3 webinar, and then there's a RPO offensive webinar. It's got offensive stuff, defensive stuff. It's got some special team stuff. So it's a little bit of an extra resource that is a subscription fee. So it is $5 a month, but I don't stop doing my YouTube. So I still do all my YouTube stuff. So I want to keep both open. I keep that one open because it allows me to show film and show people how we do it, and it allows me to coach and voice over the video clips in a Zoom screen share setting. And the YouTube stuff obviously is the stuff I love doing, but I just don't get any further involved in that because it's a free site, and people, my opponents can watch all my YouTube stuff, so I don't get too crazy with it.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah, that's clear, Coach. So I posted your Patreon link into the chat box. So if any coaches like to check this out, it's into the chat box. And if we don't have any other question, it's up to me to say thank you to you, Coach. I really appreciate you taking the time, help us grow the game over here. You dropped a lot of knowledge to us, and I think a lot of coaches will rewatch your talk and took some notes and took all the information you gave us.
Yeah, I really should be thanking you guys for growing the game and keeping the game moving forward. And the fact that we can do a Zoom call from Florida to Germany just because of a YouTube site, that wouldn't happen without you guys watching the site and figuring out what Play Fast Football was. So, I thank you guys for allowing me to be here, and I thank you guys for watching our stuff. And, if there's ever anything I can do, you have my Twitter, Coach, and give it to everybody else. If you hit me up, I'm always going to respond in a direct message or anything else. And if you guys join Patreon, I appreciate it. There is and will be some great information on there. If not, I'm going to keep doing YouTube stuff. And if we get it off the ground again in January, maybe you guys can, if there's no travel restrictions, I'd love to see if you guys could get over here for one of our Play Fast clinics.
That would be awesome.
Or maybe we can do one in Germany.
Yeah, that's great.
Or Ireland.
Or, yeah, or we can we do it around the Open Championship?
Yeah, if that's what it takes to get you here, Coach, I'll do it whenever.
Yes, I'm a big golf aficionado, and so I would love to be.
I'll take you fishing.
I don't know. I'm terrible. I can't fish.
Okay, golf, so we can teach each other.
Yeah, exactly. We can do one or the other and drink pints of beer.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's a plan.
And I know you guys in Germany can do that with Oktoberfest.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. So, Coach, maybe there's a chance in the future we can host a clinic live and in person here in Europe.
It'd be awesome either way. Just keep those lines of communication open, and guys that are on Twitter, make sure they have my Twitter and just let them know that anytime they reach out to me, and if you just start and say, hey, Coach, I was on a Zoom call in Germany, I'm going to respond right away.
Yeah, you're right. Oh, thank you. So thank you very much, Coach.
Okay.
First, let's have our fingers crossed that there is a football season in the fall. Stay safe in Florida during this time, and I'm very glad you spoke to us, and I think we can continue the educational part and stay in
Yep.
contact during this time.
You guys keep doing what you're doing. Stay safe and enjoy Coach Carter. He's a good one.
Yeah, thank you very much. Goodbye, Coach.
All right, guys. Have a great day. See y'all.
Bye.